In this video, I'm going to show you how to create the most accurate targeting lists within LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you've ever created a targeting list in Sales Navigator, you know how powerful it is, but you also know how frustrating it can be to get bad fits that populate in this otherwise perfectly built out lead list. You've added in all your filters, everything looks perfect, but you're just not getting what you want, or only about 60% of the list is what you are actually trying to target into. Hi, my name is Chris Cozzolino, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Uptown.com, where I've helped thousands of companies turn LinkedIn into a top revenue generating channel. If you get any value from this video or any of my previous videos, please consider liking and subscribing. It helps us out a ton. So we're going to be going right into it within Sales Navigator right now. So this is going to be exclusively around targeting, and I'm going to tell you the reasons for why these bad fits populate into your lists. I'm going to show you a skeleton that you can build out on your own to get rid of 90% of those false positives that are entering in. And then if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to give you that exact template so you can go and just plug and play it on your own. It's the thing that we use internally for all of our clients. So before I jump into that, I want to address why this happens in the first place, so you can also learn a little bit of how to overcome this when you experience it in the real world. So LinkedIn is great. Everybody knows that. The reason that it's so great is because a lot of the data is self-reported data. That's also the reason why it's terrible, because self-reported data is just that. People can say whatever they want, and they can put multiple different job titles. So those are the two reasons, is that it's self-reported data, and that people, when they enter information into LinkedIn, they can add as many job titles and as many roles as they want. So they can be a board member, they can be an investor, they can be the CEO of a small boutique firm that's a startup out of their basement, but they can also be the vice president of a global company. So because you can have all of those different job titles and companies, it makes it so there's a lot of mix and match that happens when you're trying to create filters. So hopefully that sets the frame, and now I'll show you some examples of that. So let's go into a couple lead lists, and I'm going to build out business owners, I'm going to build out VPs of sales, but then I'm going to create all of these exclusion lists. So that's going to be the way that we combat this, is by adding in exclusions to the job title filter and adding in exclusions to the current company filter. So those are going to be the solutions to 90% of the bad fits. And then I'm going to tell you how you can think through the way of adding in filters that are outside of the skeleton that I'm about to show you. But let's just go through my business owner list. So I added in job title as owner, geography, United States, industry, professional services. Should be great, right? But as you'll notice, as I'm going through, there's going to be companies that are definitely not professional services. So I think a good example of that is this person who's the owner of Chumming Flag. So obviously that's very clearly like a retail brand at best, and is not a professional service company. So those are the types of flaws that I'm going to show you how to correct for. Let's get another one in here. So this was a VP of sales list. If I scroll down, first scroll up actually, all of these people look pretty solid, but then we get to somebody who is very clearly just like a consultant. So the other thing that's a good thing to call out is LinkedIn will front load some of the best results. So internally, we call this the page 8 test. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can see pages 1 through 8. And what we'll literally do is click into page 8. And so I have that open in another tab so you can see, because that's where the lead list is going to start to get a little bit worse. And so you can see I'm doing VP of sales, but I'm getting the CEO and president here. So if I click in, let's see why that's happening. And if I scroll down to his experiences, this is where we can see the reason for it. So it looks like he is a sales manager, and then he's the editor-in-chief at a media company. He's the CEO at a professional service company, and then he's the vice president of and branch manager at a bank. So this is a great example, actually, because so all of these are present roles, but they're at companies in totally different industries, not professional services, but all the words combined get to what I'm searching for. So I searched for vice president of sales, but if you look at his job titles, we get vice president here, we get sales manager, but the word sales there, and that leads us to what this is. And then this is the professional service company. So it's mixing and matching all of these criteria. So I'm going to show you how to get around that. And it's going to start with getting rid of the false positives. So let me create a fresh list and we will start from there. So we are going to be excluding company words, and then we're going to be excluding job titles. And that's going to get rid of the people who are adding in all of these different job titles that make it so creating a lead list is so frustrating on LinkedIn. So current company, the words that I'm going to exclude are everything that's like self-employed related. Now, if you're targeting types of companies like this, obviously you're going to want to remove this exclusion because you want these companies in there. But this is for majority of people, and you can always kind of step this back. Reminder, if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give you this exact template. So you can take notes and stop the video if you want to be able to look, but know that you're also going to get this in the description. So current company, we're going to get rid of freelance. We're going to get rid of consulting. And so I'm just adding these in and then I'll exclude them in a moment. We're going to get rid of everything that's self-employed, but I'm going to take it even further and just get rid of self. We're going to get rid of stealth because people love to put stealth startup. We're going to get rid of retired. And this is a pretty good start. I'll show you how you can add to this skeleton in a really easy way. But this is going to be a really good starting point. So the next thing I'm going to do is come down to job titles. And now this is where I'm going to exclude a lot of what I've found to be kind of the worst fit. So we're going to get rid of the word coach. We're going to get rid of consultant. We're going to get rid of freelancer. We're going to get rid of freelance. We're going to get rid of intern, student, board member, investor, advisor, assistant, and that should be a really good start. So I'm going to exclude all of those to get me the start of this skeleton. So while I'm at it, I may as well add in second and third degree connections because that's usually who we're filtering for. And then if you've watched any of my content, you know I preach that we want to focus on the people who have posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days, but I'll keep that off for right now. So this is a really, really good skeleton start. And now the way that you would use this is where you would put in your job title that you're searching for. Something else that I want to point out, I like to put quotes around everything because it means that I get that exact phrase. So I put in vice president of sales here. But you can see I'm getting a lot of different variations. So this one does have the exact term vice president of sales, but this is vice president of business development that's populating there. This is senior vice president of global head of sales. So those words aren't combined. So what I like to do is instead I put vice president and then I'll do the word and then quotes again, sales. So then I'm still going to get a broad distribution, but I'm going to get at least those exact phrases together. And then if I really want just vice president of sales, you can see, so that gives me about the same results as 17,000. So vice president of sales, I'm going to add that in and get rid of the Boolean where I put the and. So we were at 17,000 before. Let's see what this goes down to. So we got rid of 6,000 people because now we're at 11,000 total just by making it so this exact chain needs to exist where it says vice president of sales right there. So I'm going to take this back now to my skeleton list. And let's just say that I want vice president and sales. So I want a little bit bigger of a list, let's say, and this is going to make it so I can also share the next thing that I'm going to point out. So as you're sifting through your list now, what you want to look for are the words that you don't want or that make somebody a bad fit for you. So maybe you don't want somebody that's involved in marketing. There's a lot of people that are vice president of sales and marketing. So maybe that's a word that you don't want. And I know that this is a very specific example, but my goal with this is that you can draw a parallel to the titles that you are targeting into, and that you're able to pull up a list like this with your job title in there, or the job title that you're trying to target. And then you're able to do this same process of trying to find the words that you might not want. So let's just say that I don't want the word commercial, I don't want the word support, and I don't want marketing. So I don't want these commercial salespeople for whatever reason. I don't want the marketing people, and I don't want anybody involved in support. So I'm going to go ahead and add those words in now. So support, marketing, and I forgot the other word that I was supposed to exclude, but it will probably come back to me. We'll leave it at that for the time being. So now I'm going to exclude those two words. And now that's going to reduce my list size a bit. Just for sake of example, I'm also going to put in United States so we get the same size that we were looking at before. So now I get a new list. And so the word consumer, sponsorship, licensing, partnerships. Maybe I don't want people in charge of partnerships. So partnership and partnerships I'm going to get rid of. So you can see this process that I'm going through of finding the bad fits that I don't like from a company job or from a job title perspective. And now I can do this same thing for the company name perspective. So we're going to do my page 8 list test where I go in and see what I don't like. So I'm going to say to myself, I don't want operations either. So I don't want operations. And then I know that vice presidents are probably one of the hardest to filter for because there's so many different types. So you get like executive vice presidents, you get senior vice presidents, and those end up being people that you have to type in. So I'm also going to add SVP and sales. I'm going to add VP and sales because these are people that I want. I'm going to add EVP and sales. And those were just from phrases that I was looking at that I know that I want to sell, that I do want to sell into. So let's say that I don't want regional people. I don't want people that have territories. And commercial was that word that I was looking for before. So we're going to exclude commercial. And we're going to exclude regional. So by doing this, I'm taking the actual results that I'm getting and using that as my feedback loop for what I don't want. So this is a process that might be a little bit annoying to go through the first time, but it's the best way that you're going to create the best lead list. And then what you're going to do is you're going to flip this little toggle and you're going to save it. So I believe that I'm at my cap for saved searches. So I'm going to go ahead and delete one so I can, you capped out at 50. So I'm going to put the little toggle on, and now this becomes a saved search that I will have for forever. So VP of Sales USA. And the next time that I come back, if I find people that I don't want in my lead list, then I can do the same process to get rid of people again. Now, this is from a job title perspective. This same process needs to happen from an industry perspective as well. And if you Google Microsoft industry codes, you'll see this industry codes V2. And you'll notice that if you come back to Sales Navigator, the industry codes that you can choose in Sales Navigator are the exact industry codes that are here under active nodes. And what you'll notice is there's only about 20 industries that are like overarching the umbrella filters. So the importance of knowing this is this will allow you to exclude anyone or any companies under the umbrella that you don't want. So for me, I'm targeting into B2B, and primarily where those people live are going to be under professional services, and technology, information, and media. And then also transportation, wholesale, all of those things can play into it depending on what industry you're in. But for the most part, for me, technology, information, and media is where I live, as well as professional services. But if you open this up, you'll see that there's a lot of, consumer services or what could be consumer services in here that you might not want. So graphic design is a good example. So let's say that I don't want graphic design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my industries then. And so I'm going to add in professional services because I want that umbrella. But then I'm going to remove graphic design if that's something that I don't want. That's not that big of a category. I can take that off and then flip on graphic design just to see how many people would have populated that anyways, only 89. But you get the picture of what I'm doing here from an industry perspective. This is going to be best done when you're going through your lead list and actually working it. If you find somebody at a company that just makes no sense for you to target, then that's where you can come and put that into an exclusion under the industries. So I've done a lot of talking, and let's recap kind of what I've gone through so far. So the inaccuracies that occur on LinkedIn lead lists and building saved searches is due to LinkedIn's self-reported data, which is also the positive of LinkedIn, but also the fact that you can have multiple job titles at multiple companies, and LinkedIn doesn't match those two things together. So the way that we overcome that is by using current company, current job title, and industries to provide inclusions and exclusions. People are really good about the inclusions, but they're not so great at the exclusions. So that's the secret to this whole strategy, is we're excluding words that we don't want to populate for our lead lists. And you have the skeleton list that's in the description below, but then you can also go through and do a spot check by scrolling through and looking for the job titles that you don't want, or words that are part of a job title that you might not want, and doing the page 8 test where you click into kind of the worst, what I'll call the worst leads, even though page 8 definitely still has really good leads. This is another word that, even just doing this, I see outsourced. So a word I didn't add in, but I'll make sure is in our skeleton template, is fractional. So fractional, outsourced, those are keywords that lots of consulting type roles will put in there. So this is kind of an ongoing process that can be never ending, for better or for worse, but you have a lot more control over the leads that are actually being shown if you implement this type of strategy. If you don't want to do this and you want somebody to do it for you, check out uptown.com and we'd be happy to take a look at your use case. Hopefully this was valuable to you though. And if you want a full LinkedIn strategy, check out the LinkedIn Revenue Flywheel, which shows targeting, messaging, and best practices for creating content that turns LinkedIn into a top revenue generating channel for your company. Thanks for watching.